The rain began before sunset. Not ordinary rain. This rain carried the smell of rotting earth. By nightfall, nobody in the village of Obanla remained outside. Doors were locked, lanterns extinguished early. Even the elders stopped sitting beneath the moonlight tree. Because 3 days earlier, the richest men in the village had buried Chief Adawale. And since his burial, strange things had begun happening. Dogs cried endlessly toward the cemetery. Children woke screaming from the same nightmare. And every midnight, someone heard knocking beneath the ground. At first, the villagers blamed fear, until the graves began moving. It started with a widow named Ireti. Just after midnight, she heard footsteps outside her hut. Slow footsteps, wet footsteps. She thought it was rainwater dripping from the roof until the sound stopped directly outside her door. Then came 3 knocks. Soft, heavy, deliberate. Ireti froze. Her husband had been buried 4 days earlier. Nobody should have been outside. The knocking came again. Then a voice. Low, weak, familiar. Open the door. Her blood turned cold, because the voice belonged to her dead husband. The lantern slipped from her hands. Outside, mud-covered feet stood motionless beneath the doorway curtain. And then, the dead man spoke again. You buried me too early. Ireti screamed loud enough to wake the entire village. Men arrived carrying lanterns and machetes. But when they opened the door, they found footprints. Fresh footprints, leading away from the cemetery. By morning, the rumors spread everywhere. The dead had returned. Nobody believed it completely. Not until sunrise. Because that morning, people began seeing them. A dead fisherman standing silently beside the river. An old woman who had died 10 years earlier, sitting beneath a palm tree. A child buried during the last famine, walking barefoot through the market. None of them attacked anyone. That was the terrifying part. They simply walked home, covered in wet soil, eyes pale and lifeless, as if searching for something they had lost. Panic consumed Obanla. Some families locked themselves inside. Others ran to the church for prayers. But the elders gathered secretly inside the chief's palace, and for the first time in many years, fear appeared on their faces, because they knew something the others did not. Years ago, before wealth entered Obanla, the village had been poor. The harvest failed repeatedly. Children starved. Disease spread. Then one night, a stranger arrived from the forest, an ancient spiritual priest, covered in white chalk and animal blood. He told the elders the ancestors were angry, and he offered them a solution. Wealth, power, prosperity, but only if the village fed the earth with innocent blood. At first, the elders refused, until the deaths became unbearable, so they made a secret agreement. Every few years, someone would disappear. Travelers, orphans, outcasts, even unwanted children. They were taken deep into the forest shrine and sacrificed beneath the sacred ground. And afterward, the village prospered. Gold entered Obanla. Their farms flourished. The chiefs became powerful. But the ancestors were never satisfied. The sacrifices continued for decades, and every victim was buried secretly beneath the cemetery, hidden beneath the graves of ordinary villagers. The elders believed the truth would stay buried forever, until Chief Adawale died, because before his death, he confessed. On his final night alive, the old chief whispered something horrifying to his servant. The dead are no longer sleeping. Nobody understood what he meant, until now. That evening, thunder rolled across the sky as villagers gathered near the cemetery. The ground had begun shaking, not violently, slowly, like breathing. Then came the sound. Knocking. Hundreds of knocks. From beneath the earth, women collapsed screaming. Children cried uncontrollably. And then, the graves opened, one after another. Wood cracking underground, mud collapsing inward, rotting hands pushing through wet soil. The dead emerged silently beneath the storm. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Villagers ran in terror. But the dead did not chase anyone. Instead, they walked toward the chief's palace, together, like they had been summoned. The elders tried hiding inside, but the doors burst open on their own. Wind extinguished every lantern. Darkness swallowed the room. Then the dead entered. Slowly, silently, water dripping from their bodies onto the floor. Among them stood faces the elders recognized instantly. The innocent people they had sacrificed. The children, the travelers, the forgotten victims. And standing at the center of them all was Chief Adewale himself. Mud covered his body. Worms crawled across his skin. But his eyes were open and filled with terror. He pointed directly at the elders, then spoke with a voice that sounded older than death itself. "The earth rejects your lies." Thunder exploded overhead. Suddenly the walls began bleeding dark mud. The floor cracked open beneath the elders' feet. One by one, invisible hands dragged them screaming into the ground. The villagers outside watched in horror as the palace collapsed inward like sinking sand. The dead never touched anyone else, only the guilty, only those connected to the sacrifices. And when the screaming finally stopped, silence returned. The storm ended instantly. The dead turned away from the ruined palace. Then slowly, they walked back toward the cemetery. By sunrise, every grave had closed again, as if nothing had happened. The villagers entered the cemetery carefully that morning, and there, beside the chief's grave, they found a message written in wet soil. "The debt has been paid." For many years afterward, nobody in Obanla spoke about the night the dead returned. The forest shrine was burned, the sacrifices ended forever, and peace slowly returned to the village. But even today, during heavy rainstorms, people still hear knocking beneath the cemetery. Soft knocking, patient knocking, as if something underneath the earth is still waiting to rise again.